Former Vice President Joe Biden came out and said that he would not support repealing the Hyde Amendment. That is a provision of federal law that bars the federal government from funding abortion services through Medicare, Medicaid, and others. You disagree with that position?
Yes, I do.
Is Joe Biden wrong?
Yes. So
why is he wrong?
Here's how I look at this. I've lived in America where abortions were illegal.
Yeah.
And understand this, women still got abortions. Now, some got lucky on what happened, and some got really unlucky on what happened. But the bottom line is they were there. And under the Hyde Amendment, under every one of these efforts to try to chip away or to push back or to get rid of Roe versus Wade, understand this, women of means will still have access to abortions. Who won't will be poor women, will be working women, will be women who can't afford to take off 3 days from work, will be very young women, will be women who've been raped, will be women who have been molested by someone in their own family. We do not pass laws that take away that freedom from the women who are most vulnerable.
How we do it. Yes, it is Friday, June 7th, 2019. Welcome to Raging Chicken's Out the Coop podcast. This is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken Press. Each week, I talk to our Capitol muckraker-in-chief, Sean Kitchen, about the good, the bad, and the ugly in state and national politics. On this week's show, it's time to party like it's 1988. Whoop, whoop. Joe Biden. You got that? Yeah, Joe Biden was caught again plagiarizing parts of his climate change plan. Hit Control and Control V on Control C and Control V on your keyboard. Not an acceptable climate plan, Joe. Worst thing is that he's plagiarizing from a fossil fuel industry-backed organization, the Carbon Capture Coalition, in addition to ripping off the labor and environmental group, the BlueGreen Alliance. And way to go, Joe. Yeah, it shows you the commitment you got. Got your policy people working real hard. But they failed out of college. Biden is also for repealing the Hyde Amendment. Oh, wait. Then he's against repealing the Hyde Amendment. Oh, wait, no. Then this morning, his campaign says, no, he's for repealing it again. Yeah, he must have been watching that segment from Elizabeth Warren's town hall on Wednesday and decided to steal some of her strategy, too. Control C, Control V. Then he decided, I don't know. Just remember, the Hyde Amendment, just like Elizabeth Warren said, will affect poor working class and young women, and it'll prevent them from using any kind of government-backed health insurance to pay for safe and legal abortion. Safe and legal abortion. It's medical care, folks. Biden's had quite a run of it this week. But speaking of Elizabeth Warren's town hall, I'm telling you right now, that's how you do it. Democrats should take lessons for how to answer questions, right? Elizabeth Warren's asked a direct question about, what are you going to do about this? And she's like, here's what I'm going to do about it. Ask a yes or no question. She says, yes or no. And why, right? None of this beating around the bush that we're getting from other Democratic leaders. Man, I have to say, she really, really impressed me when I talked a little about that today. Meanwhile, Bernie went to Walmart shareholders meeting this week to bring a little shame. And all the while, he's probably sitting there on his Twitter account calling on supporters to show up on picket lines in support of striking graduate student workers at the University of Chicago. The guy's just like, how old is he? Right? He's like, non-stop that campaign is. But that represents a kind of tactic in campaigning that I think we're going to see more of is going to have a decisive impact on the Democratic primary. Well, the DNC is out on the vanguard once again, saying they will absolutely not hold a debate on climate change. That's a debate that has been called for by Senators Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, Kirsten Gillibrand, Michael Bennet, and former Obama cabinet official Julian Castro. Not to mention, Inslee, whose basically whole campaign is running on climate change. And not to mention, of course, the Sunrise Movement, who's been having actions making sure that they're going to be demanding the DNC holds one on climate change. And if you recall, they've got a big protest coming up at the end of July in Detroit during the second DNC debate, right, to make the demand that a debate be held on climate change. So, and hopefully we'll be there. There's a new report out of Australia, which is probably what the DNC read when they decided, nope, definitely not having a report on climate change. New report out of Australia saying that, quote, planetary and human systems are reaching a point of no return by mid-century in which the prospect of a largely uninhabitable Earth leads to the breakdown of nations and the international order. Yep. Tom Perez read that and said, oh, definitely we're not having a debate on this. Downer. Kills me. The Democrats fail to consider, particularly kind of in the House Democrats, fail to consider the political cost of not impeaching Trump. We'll see how long Pelosi can stick to her new line that she doesn't want to impeach Trump. She wants to put him in prison. What? David Dayen's got a great new piece out in the latest print edition of In These Times on how Amazon is taking over our lives. It's an excellent report and analysis on why we've got to limit the power of these mega corporations. And a new report from the accounting group Deloitte shows that the net worth of Americans between the age of 18 and 35 has dropped 34% since 1996. Don't worry, that's not a problem because you're not going to need it to defend yourself from the onslaught of climate futures. Don't worry. Crazy. In today's PA Focus, Governor Wolf releases Restore PA plan that aims to rebuild Pennsylvania's aging infrastructure. The plan would lock in, got this? Here we go. Lock in, got off the phone with Tom Perez and said, yeah, we're doing this. The plan would lock in natural gas drilling for the next 2 decades. Progressive Democrats such as Elizabeth Fiedler, Daniel Otten, Sarah Innamorato, and Summer Lee opted out of putting their names on that bill. And climate scientist Michael Mann told the Capital Star that he, quote, hopes Governor Wolf will reconsider this misguided plan. Reconsider is as generous as I could possibly be on that one. And Dallin Leach, back in the news, goes full Trump by exonerating himself and leaking the preliminary version of the Senate investigation into his allegations of sexual abuse and misconduct. His actions forced Jay Costa, Vincent Hughes, Art Haywood, Larry Fernandez, Lindsey Williams, Tim Kearney, and Maria Collette, and everyone else basically in the party to call for his resignation. No collusion. No abuse. Pennsylvania Senate voted Mike Terzai's egregious EITC tax credit, which we've been talking about here a bit, voted that, and charter school giveaway to legislation out of committee, and it's just in time for the budget season. How about that? The bill would add $100 million to the EITC tax credit program and would increase the administrative fees from 10% to 20%, so billionaire-backed special interest groups like the Commonwealth Foundation. Commonwealth Foundation? Where do I hear that name before? So the Commonwealth Foundation can make more money off the backs of Pennsylvania poorest children. And a new report and analysis of Facebook posts by police show that, yep, we've got some serious racists in the Philadelphia Police Department and around the country. Gotta love that. In today's last call, U.S. Navy is looking to get more support for its new railgun by tying it to NASA's lunar base plans. The electromagnetic railgun will be tested on U.S. warships soon and could be used to launch payloads off the moon towards Earth without the use of chemical propellants. It's actually kind of a really interesting technology that first appeared in science fiction. And Free Will's got a couple of releases this week. Got one major release, Angel. And they've done this before, but a Hop Blend number 2. It's the second iteration of their no-boil IPA brewed with local malt from Deer Creek Malt House and heirloom Bloody Butcher corn from Castle Valley Mill. This time hopped with a huge dose of Equinaut. Is that how you say that, Sean? Equinaut. All right. And experimental hop 06300. That sounds ominous. But the first one was really good. It was really nice and light, stuff like this. It'd be kind of cool to test this one out, compare it. Not that I have any more left from the last batch. And we have Free Will has got its latest edition of its Cellar Pairing Series. Next Wednesday, on June 12th, Free Will Brewing and Trey Locally Sourced are proudly presenting Grilled and Chilled. It is a 5-course pairing featuring some of your favorite brews and soon-to-be favorite dishes, according to their website. If you go to the website, there'll be a link in the show notes today. You can see the full menu, what they're planning to do. We'll see if I'm actually going to be able to get out there for that one. I would love to do that just for the sake of doing it. But we'll see. Want to remind everybody to tune into the Rick Smith Show on Free Speech TV this and every Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern. You can stream the show live at freespeech.org or tune into the Dish Network, DirecTV, or through the Free Speech TV app on Roku. And make sure you download Rick's daily podcast on iTunes, Podbean, or wherever you get your podcasts. Just search for the Rick Smith Show. And if we want a progressive future, we need a progressive media. You can help support Pull No Punches, homegrown progressive media today. Become a member of Raging Chicken for as little as $5 a month. Simply go to patreon.com/rcpress and choose your membership level. Not ready to become a member? No problem. Just go to ragingchickenpress.org and click on the big blue donate button in the right sidebar. But the best way to invest in keeping media in the movement, and the movement in the media, is become a member for as little as $5 a month by going to patreon.com/rcpress today. Hey, Sean, happy June, man.
Yeah. No, June's here. Yep.
We're now kind of in the freaking, summer, like, full swing now. I mean, in terms, especially when it comes to politics.
Yeah, and we're getting ready for the debates. The budget season's here, and the rainy season's here, and we're going to be just looking forward for like all that deluge of bullshit over the next several months.
Deluge is a good word for it all, isn't it? Right about now.
Yes, but I'm sure like I'm having not as bad as a week as Joey B.
Joey B. Holy crap, man. I mean, you don't think, I mean, it's like, I don't know if you heard this on a Majority Report this week, but like, I mean, Sam Cedars' take on it was like, you think like the first thing you do when you hire somebody is like, hey, I've kind of got this history of plagiarizing in the past. So number one, first thing we're going to do is make sure everything is sourced, right? And there's no plagiarism. Okay. But no, Joe Biden decides otherwise.
Yeah, no, I think it also shows you how disingenuous he is and how he has no policy proposals. And his policy proposals is let's just go back to the way things were for like the past 30 or 40 years.
Yeah, and his main campaign is like, I'm Joe Biden. See my teeth? That's I mean, seriously, that's what he's campaigning on. He's got nothing. He's got no ideas. He's got name recognition. He's basically saying, hey, you want the Obama days back? Remember the good old days. And meanwhile, did you see that he also freaking started joking about his kind of like handsiness once again this week?
I did not see that, but...
He goes up to, I mean, seriously, he goes up, he's at some kind of event. There's this woman sitting in the front row, right? And he's leaning in, talking to her, right? And they're whispering back in front of everybody, right? The cameras are rolling, there's a big open thing. And he's like whispering in the ears of this woman up front. And he's got his hand around, kind of like on her side by her waist and things like this. And then she comes out, he's like, okay, and he comes back up. And then he says to the crowd, like, I just want to be clear that she pulled me close to her. And then everybody laughs. I mean, I don't know who comes off worse in there, Biden or the people laughing, all the Biden supporters. Right? I'm serious.
I mean, it just shows you how fucking terrible Biden is and how, like, I mean, like, his supporters are just the fucking resistance grifters at this point. Like, it's like the resistance people who, like...
Yeah, they're the resistance grifters, I think is the perfect way to put it. Because like it's not the people who are like joined the quote-unquote resistance, #resistance, and then actually went out and joined with the Indivisible, the Women's March, and things like this, and did organizing in locales around the country. No, they were just people that were completely put off by, oh, God, like, I must clutch my pearls at the behavior of this president.
I heard he's going to be campaigning with Dale Leach.
Yeah, exactly. And they're going to be all handsy all over each other, the two of them.
Oh, man.
Yeah, that would actually be really interesting to see if Leach will come out in support of Biden. Or has he already?
I don't know. He hasn't, but, I mean...
That'd be a fun hell of an endorsement.
I think he has... People just don't give a fuck what Leach thinks anymore.
Yeah, that's the appropriate response, I think.
Yeah, especially over the past several months. But anyway, I know we could talk about how he was acting in 100% good faith this week by reversing his horrible take on the Hyde Amendment. I'm sure that his reversal is completely authentic and has nothing to do with him getting torched on Twitter or in the media on that. And so that's a good thing.
Well, and it probably had nothing to do with Elizabeth Warren's town hall the other night. It's where she basically said, no, he's wrong on this. It's like, what? So if people did not catch this by any chance, so what the scenario was, there was a woman, right, who approached him. I can't remember the organization she was with. You remember the organization she was with?
Who?
The woman who approached him and kind of asked him about
the ACLU.
Yeah, ACLU, that's right.
Yeah,
so she's with the ACLU
member.
Right, and comes up and says to him, this shows you, by the way, if you have not seen this video, I should see if I can get a link to it. This is how you do this, right? So she goes up to Joe Biden and asks him if he had support for the Hyde Amendment in the past, and is he now would he also call for the repeal of the Hyde Amendment, right? And Biden's talking to other people, turns around, and he says, yes, I would, right?
And she asks the question again.
And then she repeats. So let me be clear. You just said that you would be this, and then puts it in a statement form, and he confirms it again. So now it is all on the record, right? And so when Biden later on, when he starts getting freaking flamed on this, right, later on basically says oh, I thought she was talking about Mexico.
Mexico City.
Right, Mexico City. It's that is just laughable. It is patently laughable because of what she did, right? He can't say, oh, I just misheard, right? I just misheard. Well, that's why she repeated it for you and you confirmed what she said, right? So either you're treating her like a dick, right? Or, right, you're lying, right? Pick
you're
your
treating
flavor.
like a dick.
Yeah, and right, exactly. So that's the key, right? So that happens, right? And so he basically, because remember, Biden has basically fought for the Hyde Amendment for years.
And also this week, Ryan Grimm at The Intercept pointed out that Biden fought really hard to make it harder to get contraception with the ACA back when that was going through.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So Biden argued for the Hyde Amendment, has been a defender of the Hyde Amendment, which basically bars any government funds for being used for abortion, right? And again, you put it in that frame, that's how they always play it. But the idea is that if you are poor, right, or elderly, it doesn't matter for abortion purposes, but if you are poor, right, and you are on Medicaid, right, you cannot use your health insurance to cover the cost of abortion. If you are rich and you have private health insurance, they get paid through the note, you can do whatever you want, right? And, or for that matter, so the Hyde Amendment barred that kind of stuff, and is basically an attack on kind of poor and working class women, period.
Yeah, and women of color, especially, and it's this just shows you his reversal, his flip-flop, but also this is completely done in bad faith. I don't think he, for one instance, actually supports repealing the Hyde Amendment. I feel like he came out this morning and basically just flip-flopped on it just so he would get in my opinion, I think the news lines this week pretty much will damage his candidacy or his campaign down the line.
We'll see. I think, you know what?
I don't see how you can recover from this.
Yes. I think this is going to be front and center in the debates.
Yes, I am absolutely looking forward to this happening because, this week, it not only just shows you, that he's just running a nostalgia campaign for the Obama years. It shows you that he has no policy platform at all.
Right, exactly.
I mean, and he's just going to be slaughtered on the debate stage, and it's going to be fun watching it. I mean, this is just going to be great because he has a long history of going on the record saying that Roe v. Wade went too far. He has a record of fucking over women when it comes to choice, availability of contraception, the Hyde Amendment, where this is just done. This is just a bad faith reversal.
Yeah, and selling out women of color in particular when it comes to sexual harassment and the Anita Hill hearings, right? I mean. Now making light of kind of charges that he's made women uncomfortable in terms of his presence and his touchiness. Yeah. Right. I mean, all that stuff is I don't know how long the Democratic Party nostalgia seekers can kind of hold on to that before that bubble bursts. Right. And I think this is why the town hall with Elizabeth Warren was so important this week, especially because she has been like literally on the other side of that, of a series of debates through Joe Biden's career. Like, in other words, testifying in Congress, challenging Biden on his thing. And there's a couple of things out there, particularly on the credit card companies, right? His responses to her were so freaking demeaning half the time, right? It was crazy. But anyway, my point is that the fact that she came out on this town hall, right, and was so kind of clear and definitive about her answers, right? This is what she stands for, and this is why. That is going to make it that much more difficult, right? And again, Bernie Sanders is doing the same thing, but it's going to make it that much more difficult for Joe Biden to use his kind of wiggle language to try to kind of say nothing in a debate and come off smelling good.
Yeah, no, I think he's not going to get the nomination. I feel like this week put a dent in his campaign hopes, and it shows you why. The campaign, he's running an incumbent style campaign where he's going to do no public availability because it's just constant gaffes and everything. I mean, this Hyde Amendment thing should have been like an easy fucking thing to avoid. Like, if you have a competent policy director on your campaign, or you have any policy at all, it just shows you like, no, he doesn't. He has no policy grounds whatsoever.
Right.
He's just going to go on looking at white papers and just, copy and paste.
And I really think the level of attention to that is kind of like, look for language that sounds good.
Yeah.
Like, and not like, is this going to address this kind of other stuff? I mean, again, I just think the contrast with Elizabeth Warren on policy stuff and Joe Biden is just so stark right now. It's unbelievable. And so that you got the Elizabeth Warren town hall, right, happening the same week that Biden has like plagiarized fossil fuel industry language for its quote unquote climate plan, right, has kind of flip flopped, right, when said, oh, I'm for repealing the Hyde Amendment, then to kind of backtrack and no, I'm against repealing the Hyde Amendment. Now, this morning, the report's coming out basically, no, he's actually kind of like changed his mind on this one again. Right? That happening at the same time you got the clarity of someone like Elizabeth Warren is just putting everything in stark contrast. And, and again, I think the viewership of that town hall was pretty high. And I think it included some of those folks that are supporting Biden. I mean, Biden has basically been trying to run on kind of like not appearing anywhere publicly. Right, he didn't show up to the California Democratic Convention where all those other amazing speeches happened last week, right? And he's kind of like nowhere to be found. He
didn't want to get the boo birds after him.
Yeah, no, exactly. So this is really kicking up.
Yeah, and no, I mean, you skip these events that have like some of the most important events. Obviously, he won't be at Netroots. I'm pretty sure that's going to be
I'm pretty sure he will not be at Netroots. But meanwhile,
I mean, come on, his campaign office is right down the street. He can
exactly.
Walk over.
He could freaking walk there. I mean, seriously. I mean, that's what's crazy. I don't think he's going to show. And I think and again, I have to say, after seeing this town hall, I mean, I'm becoming increasingly more impressed with Elizabeth Warren as a candidate, and I think this is she's going to have a major impact on kind of the shape of Democratic policy debates moving forward. Now, we already know that obviously Bernie Sanders is having a huge impact already. I mean, Bernie Sanders has pretty much single-handedly with his campaign has established some of the ground rules of like what you can run on as a Democrat in 2020. So, yeah, excuse me.
Overly and heavily supporting labor, which is something that Democrats would never have done in the past. Obama gave labor lip service in 2008, but never once went to a picket line, didn't go to Wisconsin while the takeover was happening, while the unions were being gutted, and really didn't do much during that time. And Biden is not the labor candidate.
No, not at all. I mean, in fact,
he's the labor for business. He's the candidate for business unionism.
Yep.
I mean, that's where he is. That's where his support from labor is going to come from. It's going to be transactional support from business, in the business unionism. It shows you right now with Sanders and Warren, they're actually going to the picket lines. They're going to where the rank and file members are and getting the support from them there.
Well, yeah, and look, I mean, Warren's town hall was in Fort Wayne, Indiana, right? In Mike Pence's backyard. right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's where she held that town hall, right? And you've got Bernie Sanders is kind of like basically encouraging it. And I want to read this piece. This is from In These Times, talking about the Sanders campaign on this run. This is this recent report on that about Bernie Sanders. You know, the title is "Did you get a text inviting you to picket line?" It might have been Bernie Sanders' campaign. And so I want to read a little bit. So, as a graduate student workers at University of Chicago began a 3-day work stoppage this week to demand union recognition, Senator Bernie Sanders, one of the university's most notable alumni, called on his army of supporters to join their picket lines through an email and text message blast. While candidates traditionally use their extensive contact list to focus on fundraising or bringing people out to their campaign rallies, Sanders has undertaken an apparent first in modern presidential politics, using his list to help mobilize turnout at worker-led actions. Last month, the Sanders campaign helped turn supporters out to a one-day strike at the University of California campuses, where representatives said 1,000 people, quote, responded with interest or committed to go to a protest, unquote. The campaign also called on supporters to join thousands of McDonald's workers who went on strike across the country May 23rd, demanding a $15 an hour minimum wage. Right? And then this week, Bernie Sanders also, in response in parts to people asking him, hey, can you help us support in our fight against Walmart? And he says yes. Bernie Sanders goes to a Walmart shareholders meeting basically to shame them into kind of saying you should be paying your workers $15 an hour.
Which is what he did.
Which is what he did. Which is what he did. Before he even got there, before he even got to the shareholders meeting, the CEO of Walmart basically came out and said, we think it's Congress needs to move on a $15 an hour minimum wage. Right? Trying to deflect away from his company.
And then afterwards they were like, yeah, we have to work more on the wages part.
Yeah, kind of like kicking the dust, looking down, you know, twirling their toes in the dust. Yeah, I guess we got to do that. But, you know, again, and not only did he do it, right, but he, like in the car on the way about to go into the shareholders meeting, he live streams, kind of like blasted out and live streams basically, I think it was a Facebook post or something, where he basically says, okay, here's what we're going to do. This is why I'm going to do it. And then this is what we're going to do. And then he does it. So, I mean, I don't remember ever seeing a presidential candidate. I can't even imagine that. Right. That actually, like, let alone, I mean, Obama tried to do it like virtually by saying he would do it so everybody felt good. But Sanders is actually doing it. So you've got kind of one of the heavy hitters about kind of turning people out to actually supporting worker-led actions, like building that grassroots movement that Sanders has been advocating for since his last presidential run. Well, I mean, God, his whole life, but especially since his last presidential run. And Elizabeth Warren coming out with policy proposals and responses to what's happening in Democratic politics, basically saying, look, you've got to have a position, know why you're standing there, and fight for it. Versus what we see with Joe Biden and a bunch of the other Democratic field that are just kind of like, well, you know, don't need a weatherman to know which way the wind blows. You know, it's been quite a week, I have to say.
Yeah, no, it has.
Yeah.
So I guess we can move on to the more depressing things of this.
Let's just say that I was so freaking mad. Right, this shows you that this is the kind of thing I'm like. This made me feel, I can't quite put my finger on exactly what it was, but it made me feel like the DNC has not learned its lesson from last time around. So you have a number of presidential candidates, including Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, right, Kirsten Gillibrand, Michael Bennet, and Jay Inslee especially. Jay Inslee's whole campaign is basically, I'm running because of climate change. Right. And we recall this. We talked about this last week. The Sunrise Movement is kind of like making, like demanding there be a debate on climate change, making that a kind of central demand of their protest coming up at the second Democratic debate in Detroit on the 30th of July. Well, you know, they made the repeal. Jay Inslee made a strong call on the DNC to hold a climate change debate. And the DNC said, no, we're going to take a pass on this one. Right. And then according to Inslee, not only did they tell him that, no, we're not going to do this and tell the world basically we're not going to have a climate change debate. They basically told him that if he goes out and participates in a debate on climate change that is not a DNC debate, that it's a non-sanctioned one, they're going to bar him and any other candidate who would participate in that kind of debate. They will no longer be allowed to be in the DNC official debates. I mean, you've got to be freaking kidding me.
Yeah. I mean, like, what else? If you saw it last time, I mean, like the DNC and especially Clinton, you know, they dodged the climate change issue the whole entire campaign. and same on the media for not asking questions about in the debates. Like, I mean, it's going to. I mean, now, yes, the Green New Deal is a front and center, is like the litmus test for climate change issues, and you're going to completely like not want to have a debate on that. I mean, like it's a way to appease the donors. You know, appease the unions involved with like building the pipelines and who are involved in the natural gas and the extraction industries. I mean, that's the only way I can like think about this.
Yep.
Like, yes, these are jobs. Like, we need to get rid of these sectors. Period. You know, we have to protect the workers. You know, the Green New Deal spells that out. But like, sorry, but like, we should not be digging for coal anymore. That's done.
Right.
Like that. Like, that's just it. Done. Like, goodbye.
Yep.
The same thing with like natural gas. Like, you know, but instead we're doubling down on this stuff. It's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous, Sean. It is ridiculous.
I mean, and also, I mean, it's just a way to appease the building trade, like they're supporting Biden and others.
Well, it's like this. It's like you got a couple things. Like, I think at number one, like this is a mentality, right? This is a mentality that we're seeing exactly the same mentality in terms of the impeachment debate right now. But the mentality is like number one, right? We don't want to offend anyone to the point where we'd actually have to make an overt, strong argument for a position. That's the number one. Number two, just as you said, we don't want to turn off potential donors, even if they are from the industry that is kind of forcing us down to a climate like dystopian future catastrophe, right? Right. And then number three, right, it's kind of this idea that if we you know, what we need to do is we need to avoid standing for something. And what the party, and you know, look, I said this before the show and we're talking about it. It's like, I look at this as like, if you wanted to set out a stark contrast, look, if I'm the DNC, right, if I'm standing in a position, I'm the party. I'm not a particular candidate. I'm a party. The one thing you know about the Republican Party is they have a clear brand, right? Their brand is like no taxes, right? No government, right? You could state it in like five different things. This is who they are, right? And it doesn't matter who the candidate is, right? If they have the R next to their name, you associate that candidate with those things, right? The Democratic Party does not have that, right? The Democratic Party has some of that, like wishy-washiness, but doesn't have that. But this is one of these opportunities where you basically say, no, as a party, we are going to advocate. It's in the freaking party platform, okay? So it's not like, you know, it's out of it. We're going to make climate change a central issue because we know that we have a fundamental difference with the Republican Party on this. And so we are going to have a debate about this. And guess what? If some of the Democratic candidates can't get behind it or are kind of wishy-washy on it, they're going to fail. But as a party, everybody will know that if you want to stop the climate catastrophe that is coming, you're going to vote Democrat. But instead, they've got this freaking half-assed approach to it that, oh, maybe we'll ask a climate change question. This is the single most important challenge that we face as a civilization, and you're not even going to have that front and center of your thing. That shows a lack of vision and just bad politics. And so, you know, here we are. And so, you know, look, I'm still hoping that the pressure that they are going to feel around this is going to force that kind of debate going forward. But God damn it, is like, this has got to stop. Right. And I look once again, I thank God for for AOC, Rashida Tlaib, right, the Sunrise Movement and the new generation of kind of activist politicians that have emerged in 2018, because that's our only hope. That is our only hope, that we join forces once again, social movements and kind of radical politicians or activist politicians to build a movement that's going to push back on this, because we cannot afford half measures. Right. No middle ground. Right. I mean, that's the call. There is no middle ground. So, and if there's no middle ground, you frickin' debate about it.
I mean, like, you know, and that's what, like, we had this week. I mean, Sanders, especially with the Hyde Amendment, there's no middle ground on women on reproductive rights. Yep. There's no middle ground. Like, I mean, like, it's time where we have reached that as a party. There's no middle ground on climate change. Yeah.
Yeah. And anytime you start your answer with, well, let me tell you something. If you start your sentence like that, you've missed it.
And also, like, Biden's climate change proposal leaves out natural gas drilling and leaves out fracking and stuff like that. And like, it's amazing how like our natural gas policy in this country is based on like Democratic operatives,
Yep.
and consultants defining the rules of the game.
Well,
when it's just climate denialism.
Well, and here this is I wasn't even going to talk about this part, but this is one thing that when I saw that happened, right, I was like, give me a freaking break, because this past week, the past couple weeks at least, I don't know if you've seen this too as well, but there have been increased numbers of commercials, right, and articles about carbon capture. Right, so they're actually having like commercials that are showing this kind of carbon capture stuff. Right, I've read now 3 different articles on carbon capture. This is all before Biden's crap came out. Right, and I just had it's like one of those things you stick a pin in your head. Like, why is it all of a sudden you get all this stuff on carbon capture coming out here? So the fossil fuel. My thought was the fossil fuel industry must be kind of like really worried about how they're going to handle this stuff, and they need this kind of alternative to get out in front of something. And then to have Biden come out and do this. Like, I'm not saying it was coordinated, but it sure damn as hell looked like it was freaking like in-kind contribution, right? That you had these kind of, and I believe it was from the same organization, this Carbon Capture Coalition, that was putting out those commercials. And then you have Biden come out and kind of, freaking plagiarize their materials like ahead of this. And you see this freaking alignment now of fossil fuel industries, right? And the Biden campaign. And I was like, you've got to be freaking kidding me.
And it's probably not even like fossil fuel industry. It's probably like Democratic communication operatives and stuff like that. It's the whole entire gamut. And it's just like we should not be relying on these people for our climate change policy anymore. Right. They're wrong. That's it. It's just like...
No, exactly. And there was this article in particular, and I know there was an article in particular was talking about one of the things that I think it was Iceland, I want to say, that Iceland is doing, right, to kind of reduce its emissions, and it's a form of carbon capture, right? And it entails kind of injecting the carbon into water, right? So it dissolves it in water and pumping it way, way, way underground, right? So you basically are producing like seltzer water to put it underground. Right. And the first, half of the article was talking about the particulars of this. It was like in Scientific American or something like this or something like that. Live Science, maybe. And so they're talking about this. And that was one of the things I'm like, why? What's all this stuff behind it? And then you get to the kicker that kind of happens in the second part of the article, which is like the big problem with this as a way of actually mitigating climate. So yes, you like reduce emissions, but it requires such huge quantities of water, right, that it is not a viable strategy for anyone other than like an island nation who can pull the water from the frickin' sea.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like it's not even that it's like that they're pulling.
The science is not there.
It's not. The science is not there. It's not at a point where it can have any meaningful impact.
Yeah, it's some think tank like
yes,
developed thing from groups like Seisler.
Exactly, like Seisler Media. I keep on hearing that name this week for some reason, but
yeah.
Maybe they'll come up again in the part 2 today. I don't know. But folks, and again, this is why, please go ahead and read the report that I put in there. I put a link down there. I'm not going to talk all about it, but the report out of Australia basically saying, look, it's basically echoing what the UN climate scientists said in 2018, like last year, right? But basically not even just echoing, but putting a sharper point on it that we've got like 30 years before there's a point of no return. And that's not like 30 years to get started. That means 30 years to get to the point where we're at zero emissions. And even then, it's questionable. So, go read that report. Don't believe me. Read the damn science. Right, and read the analysis and say, why is it that this is again, no middle ground issue? There is no middle ground on this. And the thing is, this is the one thing I'll pick on Elizabeth Warren in the town hall from this past week. The one thing she did not answer, she answered a question from the audience, from this guy basically saying, look, I work at this plant, right? It's a trucking plant. And I'm concerned about the kind of, the impact of kind of, these green technologies and so on. What's it going to have on my, on my job? And she basically said, yeah, look, or Chris Hayes basically, yeah, that's a good question. A guy produces trucks at a plant that makes 10 to 14 miles per gallon, right, for the of these trucks. That's obviously going to have an impact, right? And Warren talked kind of in more general terms at that point. This is the one thing I was disappointed with, because the answer to that is like, look, this is why. In a Green New Deal plan, if you look at a Green New Deal, they start talking about this stuff. But in a Green New Deal plan is that you incentivize those plants to start making the transformation of those plants into contributing to the kind of renewable technologies and renewable stuff. We're going to need tons of manufacturing jobs. So we're going to incentivize those plants. Right now, they get tax breaks for shipping things overseas. The oil and gas industry get tax breaks for kind of like, subsidizing the extractivism that they're kind of all in on. What we're going to do is we're going to reverse those subsidies. And she did say that, but then we're going to actually incentivize those companies to keep those jobs there and to produce stuff that for the renewable stuff and make that transition. Right. And she was very good also about saying those are going to be union jobs. But that's the kind of key part of it, is that you don't just basically leave people out in the cold, and you do what the Green New Deal says. Is like, look, in the coal industry, and I'm even more convinced that you basically, if you took what the Green New Deal, the proposal of the Green New Deal says, what do you do to those coal workers? You buy them out, basically. Right? You say, look, your job is going away. So you might want to go on and do something else, but what we're going to do is that we're going to buy you out for the rest of your working years. Right? Because it's going to have an impact on you, we're going to pay you the rest of your salary that you would if you were working in the coal industry for the rest of the years. Right? And we're just going to buy it out. And that's going to be part of the cost of the Green New Deal plan. And then, so it's basically like a UBI for those workers. Right? And you basically, here's your universal basic income. But it's not just going to be your baseline. You're going to have what you would have been making if you were actually working in that industry. And there's the stabilization. And in the meantime, if they want to go out and start a whole other career and do what they want to, they can do that. They still get to keep that money, and they could go out and do what they want in life. Right? If you think about the economic impact that alone will have on those communities, that's huge. Right? So that's what we do. Right? That's what it means. Is that you cannot leave workers hanging out to dry and basically worried about, say, well, do I have to worry about my job because I have to provide for my family and I have to be able to kind of pay my bills, or am I going to deal with this crisis that's hard off? If that's the challenge, a lot of people are just going to fall back on and kind of, well, I got to take care of me. So that's why the Green New Deal is so important, and that's kind of what we need to see. So that's where we got to go, folks. No middle ground. That's what we do.
Yeah, and I was reading this week there was I guess reports again resurfacing that Atlantic City will be inhospitable by 2060.
Yep.
I mean, like, think about that. That's like, I will most likely still be alive at that point.
Yep.
It's like 40 years from now. Like, yeah.
Dude, I plan on being alive by then, so you better be alive by then.
But no, I mean, like, this stuff is going to happen within my lifetime,
yes.
within your kid's lifetime. It's going to, like, it's absolute insanity.
Yep. Absolutely. And how you can, I mean, again, look, this is where I get kind of a little frustrated, right? Because, like, how can you give a shit about your family, especially if you have kids, right? And not go all in on kind of preventing the future cataclysm. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
I just get your head out of your own freaking asses for long enough. And I know I'm not talking to most of the people who listen to this podcast, but I mean, the Democratic Party at the very least needs to get their head out of their own asses and go all in on this. So,
no, we got to be the party of small ideas.
Jesus Christ. Yeah. So a couple things, just want to put this on people's agenda. One, I'm not going to go into the whole impeaching Trump. I wrote an article this week and published Raging Chicken Press about some of the issues that are the problems of Democrats are failing to consider the political cost of not impeaching Trump. There's been a bunch of stuff that's coming out. Sam Cedar had a great piece on this last Friday after our show, after we'd done recording. He had Digby on, Heather Parton on, who had just recently written in Salon about this, and they discussed that. Look, the very real challenge of not impeaching Trump is going to face for, or is going to put to the 2020 election. That, in other words, if we don't learn the lessons, that we actually have to energize the base, and if the base is not energized, we're going to lose these elections. This is kind of one of them, where Pelosi is just kind of like going through all sorts of contortions to basically avoid impeaching Trump. and it's like tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. And that despite the fact, even Jerry Nadler, who was on the fence about kind of moving impeachment, he's the head of the Judiciary Committee. Even he has been pressuring her to impeach this. A couple dozen progressive organizations kind of sent a letter to her, basically saying, "Look, you're failing in your leadership. Is that we need to kind of like go ahead and kind of do this. You have to stand for something." And still, that later that night, she comes out and says, "No, we're not going to do it." So go check out my piece there. It's at RagingChickenPress.org. The political cost of not impeaching Trump. Also want to put on people's agenda, David Dayen's got a great new piece out. It's just in the print edition of In These Times. And I'm a subscriber, right? I'm a supporter of In These Times, so when I get that here. But it's a fantastic article on this. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about next week. But talks about, the ways that Amazon is impacting all aspects of our lives. And, of course, we know this at some kind of visceral level. But Dayen does a great job of kind of really focusing attention on the way that this impacts us and why we need to do something about it and what we can do. So check out David Dayen's piece. It's called Prime New World, How Amazon Infiltrated Every Aspect of Our Lives and What We Can Do About It. You go to inthesetimes.org. I think it's inthesetimes.org. And, I encourage people to subscribe to In These Times. It's a fantastic magazine. And last thing, just to kind of reemphasize, once again, we get more data that comes out that shows that Americans, millennials in particular, that age 18 to 35, their net worth has dropped by 34% since 1996. So if you're wondering why it is it's so hard to make ends meet, why it is that your student debt is climbing like crazy, why it is you can't seem to get out of a hole, well, that's why. It's like 40 years of Republican policy and right-wing attacks that needs to be turned back. They're there. But once again, it's just very sobering data coming out from this accounting group called Deloitte or whatever. But cool. Anything else on the national stage, Sean?
No, I'm good.
All right, man.
Else.
Well, I want to remind everybody the best way that you can help support this podcast, the way you can support the reporting of Raging Chicken Press. You can support our new writers. Once again, Dorcas Olatunji's got 2 articles that are one has just been published, another one's about to be published. Her next one is looking at the she published one is looking at Kavanaugh, and this one coming up is looking at the threat to our First Amendment and threat to journalism through the Assange, what's happening with Julian Assange. Look for her piece there if you want to help support her work. The work of our summer intern and new writers that are coming aboard. Just go to patreon.com/rcpress and become a member for as little as $5 a month. There's only one way to support progressive media, support activist media, and keep the media in the movement, and that is to invest in our progressive institutions like Raging Chicken Press, not just at the national level, but right here in our own backyard. So once again, patreon.com/rcpress. Become a member for as little as $5 a month. This is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken Press. We'll be right back with our PA Focus.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1937. The leader of Lansing, Michigan's United Auto Workers Union, Lester Washburn, returned home in the wee hours of the morning. He had been in Detroit for a meeting. At his home, he found a disturbing scene. His wife was missing, and their phone line had been cut. His children were home alone. He found a public phone and started making calls to find out what happened. He learned that the sheriff had arrested 8 people in a 2 a.m. raid, including his wife. The charge was violating an injunction issued against the strikers at the Capital City Wrecking Company. The action at the plant started in May, part of a wave of strikes led by the United Auto Workers that year. Strike organizers had largely ignored the injunction. Lester had only evaded arrest by not being home. Outraged by the arrests, union leaders called for a workers' holiday. Calls for a general strike echoed throughout the city. It's estimated that as many as 12,000 workers took part in the workers' holiday. Strike supporters also parked their vehicles on roadways and in intersections to block traffic throughout the city. Michigan's Democratic Governor Frank Murphy arrived in Lansing, where he addressed a crowd of more than 4,000 downtown protesters. He pledged to oversee a meeting between the strikers and local authorities. He was able to facilitate the release of those arrested on bond. He also managed to get the Capital City Wrecking Company officials to the bargaining table. The workers' holiday in Lansing was another important chapter of the auto workers' fight to bring union recognition to the auto industry. Labor History in 2 brought to you by the Illinois Labor History Society and The Rick Smith Show. For more information, go to laborhistoryin2.com. Like us on Facebook and follow us on the Twitters at Labor History in 2.
back to Raging Chickens Out the Coop podcast. And now we've had our PA focus. So, Sean, what is happening in PA? It seemed like a real busy week.
Yes, the legislature was back in action this week. And Governor Wolf released his Restore PA plan, which is his big policy push to restore Pennsylvania's aging infrastructure and create jobs.
So that's all good. That sounds like great stuff. So this is like a 100% awesome plan then.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I mean, he had a big press conference a few weeks ago on this. And then, as he was rolling it out, here, like, he finally put out the details of it. And it's going to heavily rely on natural gas drilling in the state.
Surprise!
Yes, the bill will be his policy is going to be funded on 20-year bonds that are going to be subsidized or paid off by natural gas revenues.
So let's just do the math here. So if we stop relying upon natural gas and move to a climate like positive future, what happens to this plan, Sean?
This plan doesn't work.
I see.
Yes.
I thought that was the way it worked out, but I wanted to make sure, 'cause I'm not a great math person.
Yes. So the four Democratic progressive women who were elected this past year did not sign on to the bill. Sarah Lee, Summer Namrado,
Sarah Lee Summerado.
I'm sorry. I'm a little slow this morning. Still,
it's all right.
Summer Lee, Sarah Namrado, Elizabeth Fiedler, Daniel Otten were noticeable. Like, one of the people, obviously, who did not sign on to this. They have many concerns on it. Fact one, that it locks in fracking and stuff like that for the future. Fiedler cited that, like, the absence of a larger plan to transition into a larger renewable economy is not in there, and she said more broadly she's unwilling to double down on fossil fuels. And let's give the credit to Caruso for doing this. It's this type of reporting that needs to get out there, where Democrats, the more progressive flank, criticizing these plans because they have to. I mean, the opposition has to get out there and let people know, what's going on. And then, Michael Mann stepped in and called this plan very misguided.
And he's being generous.
Yes. So this is what Stephen wrote towards the end of the story. The plan was also great with skepticism from some of the scientific community. Michael Mann, a Penn State professor and international recognized climate expert, agreed that a plan that relies on 20 years of future natural gas production shouldn't be considered as the world faces rising temperatures. He pointed to a 2015 study from University College London that estimated a third of the world's oil reserves, half of its natural gas reserves, and 4/5 of its coal reserves must not be used to keep global temperature increase below 2 degrees Celsius from the pre-industrial average. With policymakers now aiming to keep an increase of 1.5 degrees to prevent the very worst impacts of climate change, Mann said any plan to expand natural gas extraction isn't compatible with climate science. He said this, quote, "I know that Governor Wolf wants to do right by the people of the state, so I hope he will reconsider this misguided plan." End quote.
Can you imagine? I'm just thinking as you're reading that. Can you imagine being Michael Mann and seeing that plan released,
and just like sinking your hand into your like?
I just can only imagine the effort it must have taken
to not just scream at a wall and get up and just yell at the wall.
Exactly.
Because at this point, like, it feels like he probably will get more of a better response by yelling at a wall than by like telling people like what the fuck is going on here. Do you not see like the severity of this issue?
Yeah.
And it's climate denialism.
It is climate denialism. It's exactly that.
It's not like you're coming out and saying the science is wrong or the science is bunk. You're just coming out and ignoring it.
That's right.
Which is also a form of the climate denialism.
It's doing worse. It's one step worse than ignoring it, right? It's actually building an economic program and building a budget requiring fossil fuels.
Yeah.
Right? Requiring a doubling down. If you want to increase the revenue to the state, then you double down on fossil fuels. That's the equation that is set up there. And, it's, so when he's saying it's misguided, I'm like, okay, I get you, man. I get how absolutely kind of like on the verge of depression you must be every day, right? But that's so I understand the understatedness of it, right? But man, holy crap! I just, Sean, I tell you, it's I don't know. I that makes me so. I don't want to say depressed, but it just gives me that sinking feeling in my stomach that we're screwed. Just saying.
And misguided is a very friendly way of putting it.
Yeah, it is. I'll say.
Yeah, like it's just like you know what? Fuck the science. We're just going to double down on fossil fuel extraction.
Right, exactly.
And I mean it's
Oh well.
But hey, it's a bridge fuel, and that's what the media companies out there have been telling us, and the consultants. That's a bridge fuel to wean us off of natural gas.
And it's just a lie. It's just a lie.
Yeah. No, it is.
And that's why I think you're like 100% just going to say basically, that this is climate denialism. It's climate denialism with like a friendly face. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's just it's just not right. It's just not right.
Yeah.
But whatever, man. Fucking burn, baby, burn. I don't know what else to do. I don't know what to do. So you've got that. You've got the governor and the Democratic Party basically saying, "Hey, yeah, it's okay." Like Pennsylvania, let's remind everybody, is the third largest emitter of carbon or the fourth largest of greenhouse gases in the country. Right. So
we're responsible for like 1% of the world's emissions.
Yep, exactly. So not a small amount, right? When you give them the fact that it's a big world and we're a small state. But no, we're doing our fair share to kind of,
fucking burn the society down to the ground.
It's nuts. It's nuts. So,
yeah.
But once again, whatever. Do what you need to do, man. Do what you need to do.
But hey, in other news, Dalen Leach goes full Trump. You want to talk about like fucking yourself over? Like, I mean, like, okay, so most of the issues, like, okay, so like, I feel like most of the issues with Leach, like, could have been avoided if he wasn't an egotistical maniac and a sociopath.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I feel like he could have weathered this storm fairly easy. I mean, I absolutely believe that all the allegations that were made against him, friends with a couple people who came out against him, I 100% believe Kara Taylor's story. And I absolutely believe that he should not be in office. Like that, but it's his own undoing that has got him to this point.
Yeah.
So the Senate report, we're all in the Capitol on Wednesday. Word's getting out that the Senate report's going to be released, which it hasn't been released, but they caucused over it for a few hours on the Senate Dems had a really long caucus on Wednesday about this. So we were trying to drill down what was happening. On the Senate floor, there was security standing by Leach's desk as this was going down. He was not allowed to be with the members as they were caucusing. So he got a copy of the report, the preliminary report, the slides pretty much, and was taken to his office, and him and his lawyers were looking over this while the Democrats were caucusing it over in his own way. And what he did was he made copies of the report and these slideshows and put them on Facebook, leaked them out to the media, put them on social media, thanking Jay Costa and thanking everyone for exonerating him.
It's wild.
Like,
I mean, do you think he? I mean, like as much as I give a shit about what's between his ears, but I mean, do you even think he understood like how parallel that is to Trump and the Mueller report?
Yeah.
Like, is he? I mean, I wonder, is he trying to make a turn here? Is he going to become the biggest like Republican right wing hack that's going to go after all progressives? Right? He's going to be the next Breitbart of Pennsylvania politics because he's not in the in club anymore because of his behavior. Is that what's going to happen?
I don't know, but it sure looks like it.
Holy shit, man.
So he then puts out a statement thanking Jay Costa, and like a really flippant like statement, like like, and now he's also campaigning, sending out fundraising emails right now. Like, I mean, like the people that like were trying to like squash this, or not squash it, but like keep it under the rug for as long as possible. He goes around and he turns around and he fucks them over in the process of doing this. Like, all he had to do, like, what happened was, if you read a couple of the news outlets, like, staffers from his office, from Jay Costa's office, went to Leach and said, we must receive, but you must return a copy of this report. And he said no. Like, imagine being that person who, like, he's not handing over the report. What the fuck do we do? Like, we gave it to him, and now he's just saying, no, fuck you, we're not giving, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so instead, like, so this is happening on Wednesday. And on Thursday, the next day, he puts out a statement and he fucking publishes the report online, puts it up on his Facebook page, and basically say he has no ill will to any of them anyone who came forward against him and stuff like that. Like, it is the most, like, out of this world statement that you can think of.
I'm telling you, man.
And so, like, this forced, like, Costa, Hughes, Haywood, all the people who are being quiet about this to actually just come out and like, no, fuck it, he's done. Like we're all calling for your resignation. You're done. And I would not be surprised if he gets stripped of his committee assignments. Next week.
Well, you know what I was thinking about? I was thinking about last night. I just had this image after kind of reading some of the stuff about Leach, right? I just had this like imagining that like like in a world where you got Netroots Nation coming up, right? And then I was imagining like next year, ahead of the 2020, that say, for example, a Keystone Progress decided to reconvene in Harrisburg for like a central location for the thing and do his big thing, and that Dallin Leach, still like bouncing around, basically decides to hold one of his big parties, right, and rents out one of the big beer halls so everybody could come to one of his parties. That's what Leach was always known for, and for it to be like Leach and like 7 other people show up in this big empty room, right? And just like
staffers at that point.
Yeah, exactly. And him just kind of like looking around like, where are all the people?
I thought people would actually come out to this.
And then I had this image in my head of like, the camera of like focusing on Leach and this guy panning out into like an emptier room and have him sitting there with his drink in his hand being like, I'm Dallin Leach.
I used to be a contender.
Exactly.
I could have been a contender.
But, hey, look, it goes to show you that, kind of sexual harassment and sexual inappropriateness is really a bipartisan commitment. So that's his policy.
So with this, like, in mind, this is what he released today in his campaign, his re-election campaign. You may not want to be drinking coffee because it's just like...
I just stopped. I decided to put it down. Anyway.
Chris Brennan put this up online. Dear Chris, goes to Chris Brennan, I am gratified that the investigation ordered by Senator Jay Costa as Democratic leader of the Senate has absolved me of false charges made against me. Specifically, the report says there was no evidence that I ever engaged in any behavior that could be called sexual harassment, predatory, discriminatory, or illegal. Further, they concluded that I have never violated any Senate policy. Period. Then there's links. Click here to make a donation to my campaign.
Trump 2020.
Like, imagine putting like that, like that email. Yeah, I'm sure that's a really great like campaign ask right there. Like,
wow.
I mean, this is like no sense of self-awareness.
Wow. Wow. Do you think what do you think the chances are that he gets reelected?
Slim and none.
Okay. So I just wanted to see if I could restore at least partial, like some of my faith in humanity back in here.
Yeah, no, I think there's just
Democratic
no way.
Voters in particular.
I think there's just. So he has lost the support of pretty much virtually everyone in the party. He's a pariah. I don't see him running an insurgent-style campaign to...
Maybe he'll run as a Republican.
and just get trounced.
I don't know. He'll certainly bring out all the Trumpers.
Yeah.
All he's got to do. I mean, look, there's a ready-made playbook for people like him, right? Political correctness. I mean, you run down there's already a playbook there that he's seriously, that's what I see. What he's doing and the moves that he's making is lining up with the kind of classic kind of right-wing Republican playbook.
Yeah.
So we'll see. He's going to be a frequent guest on kind of like,
Matt Brier's podcast.
And Dom Giordano, whatever his name is down there in Philly, and Fox News. So, yep, we'll see.
I mean, Christine Flowers has come out and his strongest supporter so far. So,
man. So, hey, Dalen, you do you, and no luck to you, okay? No luck. It's crazy. Crazy. I do hope that he's gone, right? But good. So what else is going on, Sean?
The Pennsylvania Senate Education Committee voted this week to move Mike Terzai's EITC tax credit expansion and charter school giveaway bill this week. So it pretty much add $100 million to the EITC voucher program. There's two programs, which is EITC and OSTC. OSTC is a voucher program that goes towards needy kids. That is not getting touched because who wants to send needy kids to school, to private schools?
Yeah, totally.
But what is being touched here is the EITC tax credit program, adding $100 million in tax credits, and it's also raising the administrative fees from 10% to 20%. So that means, like, if you're a group that administers EITC tax dollars that are coming in, you can then you can shave 10% off the top and keep that money for yourself, and then still get the full tax credits in return.
Right. So I'm just going to take a hypothetical example. Say that there was an organization called, I don't know, like Pennsylvania, the Commonwealth Foundation, for example, right? Just to say there was, somebody had an organization with that name, right? And that organization, I'm choosing a generic name because Pennsylvania's a Commonwealth and, foundation, so just kind of a generic name. So you have an organization like the Commonwealth Foundation, my hypothetical Commonwealth Foundation, kind of like decides that it wants to donate a ton of money, right, to some schools, right, to some charter schools in particular, right, and so say I donate, I don't know, give me a number, Sean. How much would I donate, you think?
Like $3.2 million?
$3.2 million, just hypothetically, right? So it's $3.2 million, right, to these schools. And so under this program, right, that would give me...
actually have to give it to a scholarship fund.
Well, yeah, give the school scholarship fund, right? There you go. Under this program, I get, good, nice tax credit. That's a big donation, and so that's going to like do some good stuff for my taxes. Now let's just say I also happen to run some charter schools, right? And just one of the but might do it through a different wing of my organization or something like this. But I'm going to set up the charter school itself, right? And so I'm going to say, you know what? Because these are charter schools that I like. Right, because I run them, or my other company runs them, I'm going to kind of give them the charter schools, right? Am I with this so far?
Mm-hmm.
All right, and so that now, when that donation goes through, right, you have to administer those funds and administer those scholarships and all that kind of stuff, and that's a costly thing. So therefore, we're going to increase the amount of money that they give, and so I get the kickback for that too.
Yep.
Yeah. Imagine if there was an organization that actually did that.
Well, first you have to set up your own LLC.
I had to set up my own LLC.
Yeah, so with the fictitious name of, like, I don't know, Commonwealth Kids?
Commonwealth Kids, for example. Right, hypothetically, once again, right?
Yeah, yeah.
All right, so people that aren't in on the joke so far, is what you got to know is that there was a report released this week, right, or an expose, we should say, that basically showed that this is precisely what was going on.
Yes.
Right?
I mean, everyone's exploiting this. Even like in the hearing, Senator John DeSanto, my state senator, came out and says, I know that my EITC dollars goes to, like, he pretty much told the committee that he has a company that exploits the EITC tax credit program.
Even though I know The company, the LLC that I run, I know what kind of impact it's going to have and what kind of taxes I'm going to get because I run one. Right, and he's sitting on the freaking committee that's doing this. I mean, it's like just nuts.
Yeah,
that's nuts.
And so, but also, we have to talk about this EITC laws.
Yes.
So you can get this money for corporate net income tax, capital stock franchise tax, bank and company trust share tax, title insurance company share tax, insurance premiums tax, mutual thrift institution tax, malt beverage tax, a tax under the insurance company law of 1921, and the personal income tax of principals of a pass-through entity. Obviously, these are not taxes that normal people pay.
Right.
So, turns out there's a lot of companies out there exploiting these taxes.
Right, and this is one thing about this bill, especially. Look, this is why Sean has been following this stuff for a while, right? And one of the reasons why is because when most people, I think, hear like EITC tax credit, right, your eyes glaze over, right? Because what the hell does it mean? Unless you hear it on the radio, EITC tax credit, you're just like, whatever. I don't know, I don't get that, so whatever. But this is what's going on. It's like
this stuff drains money from public schools, and it's a way for rich people. It's a double whammy.
Yep.
It drains money from public schools, and it's also a way for rich people to wash their taxes.
Right. And so after they started running this thing, then basically this new stuff that comes out is basically saying, yeah, we're going to double down on that, and we're going to give
you more financial incentive
to the 1%.
So you can double up your administrative fees and take more money off the top.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, these things are pretty much like embezzling schemes at this point.
Totally. Right. If you look at this is the kind of crap that look. Number one, you got like Marshawn Harrisburg has been highlighting, the kind of corruption of Pennsylvania politics, the fact that you don't have these kind of like strong anti-gift laws and things like this already in the state. So there's at the very level in Pennsylvania, you've got top level legal corruption and bribery that takes place. This right here is using the legislative process, right, to kind of like stuff your own pockets full of money, right? That's and take it away from public schools, right, and take it away from all of us. Right, it's like it's this kind of crap that the right wing pulls all the time. We want no taxes, no taxes, no taxes. We're government out of our pockets. No, we want to use government to basically take money away from the people we don't want to have the money, right, and put it in the pockets of our donors. That's what this is. Crazy. Yeah. Crazy. Well, one thing I wanted to mention, I forgot to mention this in the intro. Both Sean and I are kind of off key today, and I was kind of late putting something together. But one thing I thought deserves an absolute mention here is what just took place in the over in Summer Lee's district, right? Summer Lee, man, I'm telling you, she has got it down. Like that woman freaking rocks the house. So she basically said, okay, I got elected, right? And it was a historic victory, right, that she had, right, over Costa, right? Which Costa was it out there again?
Dom.
God, how soon you forget.
Oh, no, Paul.
How soon you forget. How soon you forget who they are.
Two fucking deadbeats, pretty much.
Right. Well, so she wins, right? And against a lot of the kind of Democratic Party establishment, let's be clear, right? She leaves it and kind of with kind of DSA backing. Like she wins, but she doesn't stop. She's been nonstop. She's been out in front on a lot of policy issues. She's been nonstop, like out in front as organizing,
especially with the shooting that happened with the officer involved shooting of Antoine Rose.
Exactly, and so she's been like nonstop. And so what she did is that basically she decided, you know what, it's not enough just for me to win the election, but we need to expand our victories. Right. So, and this is a report that's coming from the Pittsburgh City paper. And I just want to read the first few paragraphs of this so you can understand it. So it's going to say it better than I can right now. So it says, this is quoted from the article. And this article is by, I should give credits, Ryan Dedo, like Beto. Okay. After State Representative Summer Lee scored an upset victory in 2018 over a 20-year incumbent, she wanted to help other candidates like her, lacking political connections, unapologetic, progressive, and passionate. She formed the Unite Political Action Committee in January to build a coalition of candidates who can advocate and speak genuinely on issues like poverty, immigration, criminal justice, and rights for LGBTQ and disabled people. Quote, "You don't need it to change who you are to run," unquote, said Lee in January. Quote, "We need you to sound like you sound because your background is integral," unquote. With that goal in mind, Unite PAC endorsed and helped organize the 2019 campaigns of 3 Pittsburgh area politicians, Allegheny County candidates Bethany Hallam, and wait, did I? Okay. I'm sorry. Allegheny City Council candidates Bethany Hallam and Olivia Bennett, and Pittsburgh School Director candidate Pam Harbin. Right, all 3 of these candidates won their primary seats last week, all but ensuring that they will be seated come next year. Right? Talk about putting your money where your mouth is and understanding the role of organizing and building on victories. This woman is it. Right?
And this not only, this is a shot across the bow for the establishment machine out in Western PA. I mean, like, it's one thing once you start winning. It's another thing once you start knocking other people off and becoming your own kingmaker.
Yep.
And I mean, she's doing it, and she's going to be a force to be reckoned with out in the western part of the state.
Well, I think statewide, because I think that because if she keeps on doing this, her support is only going to grow. Right, and she's going to build like a power base within the PA Democratic Party that is going to be a force to be reckoned with. Because the old school doesn't do anything; they just talk. That's it.
I think she'd be a great challenger to one person named Pat Toomey in 22.
Yeah, how about that? That'd be freaking amazing. Can you imagine that? Oh my god, that would be awesome.
I mean, that's where my mind's at right now.
I'll tell you, Toomey, yeah, the guy who looks like he's like an egg trying to escape a head. That guy. I mean, he's an
unapologetic woman running for office.
Freaking awesome. So all kudos go out to Summer Lee. Congratulations and thank you to Summer Lee for all the work that she's doing. And take notice, everybody. If you want to know how you actually build power in here, she's the person definitely to be hooking up with in the kind of new Democratic Party leadership in the state of Pennsylvania. So kudos. All right, man. Anything else in PA?
You mentioned in the intro. I think we should probably spend some time to talk about it. The apple cart in the Philadelphia Police Department.
Oh shoot! Yeah, definitely. There's another thing I forgot to put in the notes, but I did remember to mention it in the onset. Yeah, this is a huge deal. This is huge.
Hundreds of Philadelphia police officers, like almost like a third of the force, have been caught using racist or violent rhetoric on Facebook. Not surprising, but good job on the ACLU and the other organizations who have been building this database for the past couple of years. Yep. It seems like Richard Ross was aware of this database being assembled from the stuff that was. It seems like the Philadelphia police knew about this. They were working, like the administration was working on it, but the story dropped over the last weekend, and hit like a bombshell.
Yeah, indeed.
I mean, I was out last Friday talking to one of the ACLU people, and they said, "Be ready for your inbox tomorrow." He's like, "We got a big story coming out, and it's going to be huge." And boy, they were not lying.
No, they were not. And this is already the top line of from Billy Penn was 10 Philadelphia police officers have been relegated to desk duty following the release of a database of racist and violent Facebook posts allegedly linked to 330 city cops. The reassignment is the first public action taken after Police Commissioner Richard Ross promised an investigation. Mayor Jim Kenney and District Attorney Larry Krasner have also released statements condemning the behavior. All right?
I mean, this throws a lot of. This is going to throw hundreds or thousands of court cases into question.
Right.
I mean, you're going to tell me that, again, this is why we need a DA like Larry Krasner to be in there, who is, I'm sure you're going to have to start revisiting these cases. Add these officers to the do not call list, make sure they're not on there, but also how many people end up in jail because of these people being outright bigots.
Yep. Absolutely.
I mean, this is going to be a huge. I mean, it's a headache. But it's a good headache to have. But this is going to take a lot of time to reckon. There's going to be possibly a lot of court cases and exonerations coming after this.
Well, especially, and this is also from Billy Penn. Talking about this stuff. The database also contains at least 139 Philly officers who were previously named in federal lawsuits over police brutality. Right. And this is the kind of stuff that Sean just talking about.
Have a job.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. So not only this is again this report, right? And I should give them the credit. It's the group is called the Plain View Project, and you can listen. There was a great I think it was on. I don't know if it was Radio Times or what it was this week, but there were some interviews on from there with Larry Krasner and also with one of the women who's one of the kind of the front people for the Plainview Project. Please check out the link in our show notes today about this, because it's really astonishing. Because basically some of the things that were happening in these Facebook posts is that, again, this is like publicly available stuff, right? This is not like in secret chat rooms. Right, this was stuff that they're posting on their pages.
These are
about
people who are dumbasses who don't know how to use social media correctly.
Well, let's just call them dumbasses. Let's call them racist, right?
Yeah,
racist and neo-fascist. Larry Krasner even came out and basically said there's one Philly police officer who's got an overtly Nazi tattoo, right? And he said this is unacceptable.
Yeah, Lichterman, Hans Lichterman. That became a big deal a couple years ago.
Yeah, you reported on that. I remember that.
Yep.
So do check that out. This is this is something else, as has the opportunity really of blowing open that thin blue line, so to speak, and getting behind it and exposing this. Because here's the thing, is that the problem is that police officers, everybody knows, the reputation is that they circle the wagons. Anytime one officer comes up on charges, no matter what it is, they circle the wagons and they protect them, right? And this is true for the police union too as well. They don't acknowledge any wrongdoing, go all in and support the police and saying everyone else is wrong, right? Everyone else is wrong. They're attacking police officers and so on. The problem is with this kind of thing, this shows you
how systemic it is.
Well, but a peek behind the wall shows you, okay, look, so you're talking about what, a third of the force, was it? No, not that. I can't remember what it is. Oh, 70. So there's a 77,000 member force, right, and 330 members. So you have it's not a huge. It's not like half the police force, right? But the fact that it is systemic and ongoing, right, puts all the rest of the officers who are actually trying to do a decent job and are not these people, basically lumps them in with them, because what the public sees, the people that are victims of those racist police, is the public sees a police force that protects those people. And so you're in a position where you have to, if you want to protect yourself, you have to assume that that's prevalent all through the police force. And this is a big sea change that's got to happen, right? And this, I would argue the same thing I've argued in other cases about unions, right? About my own union, for that matter, is that at some point you've got to be willing to kind of come out and kind of like hold people accountable when they're doing things that are absolutely unconscionable, like we see right here in these Facebook posts.
Yeah, no, I mean, and it shows you that, I mean, it shows you that this is just, where do you go from this?
You prosecute and you kick them off the force. That's what you do.
Yeah.
I don't know how else, what else more there is to do. And again, yes, look, there's got to be a process. I get that. There's that's all fine. I said, but that should be the determination. The determination is that we have a zero tolerance policy for racists on the police force, period. You want to go out and be a racist in your free time? Have at it, right? But not on the police force. So, crazy. Anything else going on in PA, Sean?
Nope, that's it.
Nope. All right, well, we are at it here. So this is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken Press. We'll be right back with this week's Let's Talk. This is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken Press. For the past 7 years, Raging Chicken Press has brought pull-no-punches, progressive reporting and commentary to the interwebs. Our long-form investigative pieces, stories that no-access journalist wants to touch, or rollicking weekly podcasts strive to advance progressive movements and perspectives rooted in the struggles happening across the country or down the street. We've broken national stories and caused our share of discomfort in the halls of power. If we want a progressive future, we need progressive media. And you can help support Pull No Punches, homegrown progressive media today. Become a member of Raging Chicken Press for as little as $5 a month. Simply go to patreon.com/rcpress and choose your membership level. We need to make sure to keep the movement in the media and the media in the movement. Best way you can do that is to become a member of Raging Chicken today by going to patreon.com/rcpress. Thank you for your energy, your encouragement, and your support. Keep up the fight. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Raging Chicken's Out the Coop podcast. It's this week's last call where we talk space news, beer. This week, maybe we'll talk about how Sean's actually going to get his car inspected once again for the first time in, like, what, I don't know, a dozen years. So I think we got to put that one on the agenda, Sean. But this is kind of a tangentially connected to a Space Force, so I thought I'd throw in the Gregory Brothers' awesome song. But this week, the U.S. Navy is looking to get support for its new railgun by tying it to NASA's lunar base plans. So if you don't know what a railgun is, you know what a railgun is, Sean?
I think it's from a video game.
Well, there is something from a video game, and lots of science fiction novels use this and all stuff. But it's actually legitimate technology. So basically what it is that a railgun is that, you know, this is one of the things that was actually first looked at quite well, at least in my recollection, right? When Ronald Reagan wanted to get behind the Star Wars plan, right? You know, to put basically, you know, killer satellites in orbit and things like this to plan for the war, you know, that the coming future wars or whatever. One of the things that emerged was this idea about a railgun. And what a railgun is, you know, what are the problems that you have about, you know, in space is that you don't have any air, right? So that how do you actually, you know, ignite something if you don't have any air? Right? Fire this. But a whole bunch of things dealing with energy issues and so on. But a railgun, so basically uses the electromagnetic technology to basically have a long rail, right? And you use these kind of magnets to kind of thrust something forward. So the idea is that you can throw kind of objects, like say rocks even for that matter. Doesn't matter. They're not explosive things, but it could be anything that could be propelled at super high speeds toward any object and kind of take it out, right? So that was kind of like, you know, one of the things that you know, the Reagan administration first appeared. But if you also looked at a lot of science fiction things, you saw the railgun idea came up a lot, because one of the things is that if you wanted to actually have like a moon base, right, or have a base kind of in the planets, you always have the problem of fuel. Right, so yes, you can always use nuclear reactors and things like this as a way of kind of like future, you know, propelling things. But if you don't need the energy, right, because space is a vacuum, right, and we have kind of inertia, if you launch something at high speeds, it will stay at those speeds. And because a railgun uses electromagnetic technology, right, you could actually do that with, you know, theoretically, you could run that off solar power. Right, so you wouldn't need fossil fuels. You wouldn't need any kind of chemical propellants. You could actually use the sun's energy to build up the electricity in order to launch these things, right? And so that was the idea. And so you could launch stuff kind of into space at a high rate of speed to kind of other planets, whatever it might be. This is something that actually features in Kim Stanley Robinson's latest book, Red Moon, too, as well, about, say, getting people off the lunar surface, right? So if you've got a moon base established, you need to get people off the surface. You need to get goods off the surfaces. As we know that they're already planning how to mine stuff on the moon. You don't want to have to kind of say, if you're going to make rocket fuel on the moon, you don't want to have to burn that rocket fuel in order to kind of get off the moon, especially if you're shipping back to the U.S. or whatever other kind of stuff that's there. So a railgun technology would actually allow you to do this. So, for example, basically, let's see, you could basically use this electromagnetic railgun to launch something at speeds that exceed Mach 6. Right, and so Mach 6 is about like 4,600 miles per hour, right? In order to get something off the moon, right, to escape its gravity well, you need something that's going to be about reach 5,300 miles per hour. So it's still not quite to that threshold yet, but this could be it. The railgun that the Navy is developing is actually going to be a ship-mounted one, right, as a way of kind of like not having to use kind of like, traditional weapons, but actually to launch stuff using this railgun technology. What they want to say is much more efficient. So what's interesting is that you've got, once again, the alliance between the defense industry and the kind of future space industry, where that's where we're seeing the kind of investments going on. And they're making a strong play to get funding to equip its ships with like the next generation of weaponry and doing it on the back of the space program. So check that out. That's always fun. But I always find it wild. It's one of the things about kind of being as old as I am is that, and growing up on science fiction, is that you start to see things that were complete fantasy, and you have to kind of wrap your head around as a kid to figure out what they're actually talking about. And now you're seeing this stuff actually come into fruition. It's pretty mind-boggling, to be honest with you. But so there's that. But that's all I got in space news this week. I had some other things, but it's like it's been good weather this week. It's been all good and so on. So I'll give you kind of a couple things here. We got a free will release, like I mentioned up top. They got Angel, which is the Angel Hot Blend number 2, and it's a second iteration of a no boil IPA in kind of local malt from Deer Creek Malt House and some Bloody Butcher Corn from Castle Valley Mill. That comes in at about 6.3 ABV. The last time was pretty good. Had a kind of fruity, a little bit of a fruity taste to it. It was kind of nice. Felt like a really nice summer beer to me when I had it. But they'll have 4-pack cans will be available at both locations. I'm just go check them out. They're really pushing right now. They also have at the Free Will one in Percy, they actually have a crawler machine now. So if you want to get a big can of it, you can do that. They do not have a crawler machine at the location. Why I always have the problems. What is that other place, Sean?
What place?
The other place, the big
Peddler's Village?
Peddler's Village. I can never remember the name of that place. The other place at Peddler's Village, they do not have a crawler machine there, so if you're going to get it there, bring your growler. But so check that out. And a big plug for their basically cellar pairing series. I mentioned this before. My wife got me, I think it was for like my birthday one year. It was like a cheese and beer pairing thing, and it was in their sour cellar. You got to go down and sit down. There's like maybe, 30, 40 other people for there. And they kind of pair, local foods with different beer samples. And then you get a little tour of the sour cellar. It was just a great evening. If you're looking for something special to do, this is another opportunity to do that. This time they're doing a Trey Locally Sourced. You may have to remember their name because that's a lot of the food truck. Trey Locally Sourced has got a food truck that they're frequently out in Free Will, usually at least one night of the week at Free Will for their like Thursday through Saturday or Friday through Saturday, whatever. The food truck is out there, and Trey Local Resources usually kind of in that mix. They're actually kind of developing special recipes for special dishes to be tried with those beers for the grilled and chilled event that will be happening on Wednesday, June 12th. There's going to be a link to this directly in our show notes that'll take you to the event page. It's going to be a 5-course pairing that's featuring some of your favorite brews and soon-to-be favorite dishes. So definitely check them out if you get the chance. It looks like it's going to be a good one. So what I really want to know, though, Sean, is that what got you to the point that you decided that you were going to get your car inspected? Was it the bumper falling off?
I actually replaced the bumper. Thank you very much. Did that myself. I just had a bunch of fixes I had to make to my car. I could not afford to make while I was bartending over the past couple of years. And I got a bunch of shit done within the past few months, so it's finally getting there for inspection. My biggest thing was getting a windshield replaced.
There you go. Yeah, I don't know if you've seen Sean's car lately, but he really needed a windshield replaced. He was actually his windshield was in really bad shape, and it was actually he just again he was trying to do the DIY thing, so he just basically saran wrapped the front of his car, right, because the glass was actually falling out. And again, it works for a while, but after a while, it starts to give and becomes cloudy, so he had to replace it. Not for real, but just saying.
It was getting to that point.
Yeah, you had a couple of major spiders there, right?
Oh, what, with the car?
Yeah. I mean, on the windshield.
Oh, yeah. No. What ended up happening was there was a crack. There must have been a crack in it, right?
Webs, I should say. Yeah.
And then, the water must have gotten into it, through a micro crack. And one year, one winter, when it was really cold, the defrosters, cracked the bottom of the windshield, straight across. So it passed inspection a couple of years because, it wasn't migrating. but then it just started to migrate in the middle of the field of view and stuff like that.
Right.
So.
Well, a lot of times for windshields too as well, you probably know this already, but with windshields, with your car insurance, if you have car insurance, I don't know, you haven't gotten your car inspected, I don't know if you have insurance. Or
I do have insurance, thank you very much.
But windshields are usually covered by car insurance, so that's a good thing.
I don't think mine is.
I would. Did you ask them?
No, I didn't.
I would call them and ask them, because I was surprised years ago when I had a very similar thing happen. I got a rock that kicked up, big rock kicked up from some construction that was going on, and kind of put a major took a chunk out of the windshield, and then it began migrating. I called my car insurance at the time, and I was like, what are the chances? And turns out they did cover it. So,
yeah, I might actually be at getting low mileage insurance pretty soon.
Yeah,
with how little I drive my car. Yeah. And that's another thing. I don't drive my car that often, so it's just it's. Yeah, I'm at the point though where it's. I'm finally hitting, but I don't want to get a new car right now and have a car payment for something I'm only driving a few thousand miles a year.
Yeah, I know, Sean, but look, we're a nation of laws, right? Are we a nation of laws or are we not a nation of laws?
There's some laws that are worth bending.
Exactly.
By 2.5 years.
This is your, yeah, exactly. By 2.5 years.
I did not get pulled over at all during this time period either.
Yeah.
Which is sort of amazing.
Okay, whatever you do not transfer that logic into gambling, please. Well, I got lucky with my car.
Oh, no, I don't gamble.
I'm going to go to Atlantic City before it goes underwater and try my luck. Yeah, no, that's cool. That's cool. What else is going on? Anything else cool?
This is pretty funny. So yesterday, I was sitting on the deck.
The deck. Capital
the deck.
T. Capital
the
D.
deck. Having lunch with Roxbury. Mm-hmm. And I had my pink Planned Parenthood t-shirt on.
Uh-huh.
And this local Bible thumper who's a fucking state worker and also stands out in front of who's a Planned Parenthood protester. Mm-hmm. One of those fucking assholes was walking by, and he saw my shirt, and he made a sign of the cross right in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
And we're eating lunch, and Roxbury goes, "The fuck are you doing? Are you praying for us?" I was just, and then he's like, "Yeah, and Planned Parenthood kills babies." And Roxbury goes, "So does cigarettes, you Nazi asshole."
Go play with your spidget finner.
Was the next thing he said.
And I'm just laughing, dying. That's the highlight of my week, pretty much.
That's pretty nice. That's pretty nice.
Yeah.
I had this week, it was big as summer soccer kind of kicked up again for my daughter. And my daughter, she's 7. And she's had this, this amazing coach last couple of years too as well. This year, we'll see how it goes. But we have a coach who's a yeller, right? And it's a style of coaching, right? And I would say it is a very masculine style of coaching, right? Where you're basically yelling out commands at everybody for the whole thing, even though these girls, some of them don't know all the rules of the game yet and need to know what it is. And then, go, here. No, listen to my voice. Right forward. Pass over, score, right? It feels like that the entire game, right? And personally speaking, if you follow me on Facebook at all, you know that I posted afterwards that, girls soccer could benefit from a little less or a lot less testosterone on the sidelines, right? And I'm not just talking about the fans, because there's some issues with fans too as well. I just, it's a difference in terms of how you approach things. And I always think about, coaches who are about building team and building unity and building that kind of sense of stuff, and kind of through skills and rehearsing is much better than just kind of yelling out commands at people. So that's going on, and I always want to bring that up because I look at this, having a daughter, right, has underscored this more for me than anything else. Is how important it is to have women role models that are doing this stuff, right? As AOC has been saying, right? You got to see it if you're going to be it. right? The idea that having someone that kind of is like reflects back to you your own possibilities, that yes, you can do it too, is so important. I remember I've told this story before on the podcast, but I remember, like, for example, when we went to Washington D.C., and this is ahead of the 2016 election, and I think it was a year before. It was probably 2015 when we were out there, and we just toured a bunch of places, and we went to the souvenir shop, and both my kids wanted to get rulers, right? And they got the rulers with all the presidents on it, right? And my daughter was really interested in stuff. My son was too as well. It was like, they always just soak up all this stuff, whatever. But when we got home, she's kind of going through her stuff and all that. She pulls out her ruler and she looks at it. And granted, at the time, she's like 6, right? Maybe even 5 going on 6. And she looks at it and she says, "Why are there no girls?" Right? And she was conscious of that, right? And that wasn't prompted. That was anything like this. But she looked at that and she looked for the girls, and they weren't there, right? And that's a kind of underscored something. And I want to go back. I had this long discussion years ago. My friend Dan Calamucci and a friend of his. This was like in New York. It was like after we had been out, and like we're walking back to this apartments, and his friend basically says, we're arguing over Madeleine Albright, right? So this is years ago. And she was arguing that Madeleine Albright is like, you need to support Madeleine Albright because she's a good role model, right? And I was saying things like, yeah, but she's like also taking part in war crimes, right? That this is a problem. Like, even as a representative for women, right? This is a problem. And she's like, but you have to admit that's an advancement, right? And I was so stuck in the policy things like this that I would say, like, no, look, it's absolutely, I want to advocate for women to be in roles, but I was saying that, like I said, for me, it's like she's not the greatest role model, right? And we went back and forth on this for a while, and I understand what she was saying, that woman was saying, more now than I've ever had in my life. Right, about how important it is, even if that person is someone who is you fundamentally don't agree with politically, and how wrong I was, right, in terms of not understanding that back then. And I think that's true moving forward for here too as well. And to bring it back to just my daughter's soccer stuff, is it surprised me, I have to say, that there weren't more women coaches for the soccer team, right? And I think there's maybe 2. Where my daughter plays soccer, and all the rest of them are men, right? And again, look, these are men that have. I'm not saying I'm not saying like they're all bad because they're men. That's what I'm saying, but I'm saying that the vast majority, and these are just the girls' soccer, right? And the reason why they're coaching is because their daughters are playing soccer and they're there too as well, right? So they're stepping up, they're giving their time, they're doing a lot, right? And they're spending their free time helping this kind of stuff. But I learned, especially seeing my daughter play soccer last year, about how important it was for her, right? Regardless of what I think, how important it was for her to have a woman coach. And she was lucky enough to have a woman coach who was awesome, right? And that's kind of really been informing a lot about how I think about so much of the stuff right now, right? And I'll be honest with you, it's like, this is one of the reasons you've heard me talk a lot more about Elizabeth Warren on this show. And I've been a strong Bernie Sanders supporter for a long period of time. But I'm also looking at, how important it is to have someone like Elizabeth Warren in this race, and how important it is, we move forward, that, Democratic Party has got to fundamentally think about why it is that you've got somebody out in front like Joe Biden, right, or Pete Buttigieg, right, as opposed to kind of champion someone like Elizabeth Warren, for that matter. And this is why someone like, I think I'm hoping, even though she is not my first choice, I hope someone like Kamala Harris, I hope she does really well in terms of the her campaign, because if we got down to 4 people, of 2 men and 2 women, as we kind of move forward, we had to make our choice there. I think that'd be a good thing. So, anyways, less testosterone on the sideline of girls soccer, less testosterone in our world, period. I'm all game. I'm all behind it. So that's what I got to say, Sean. So anything else going on?
No.
You got any plans for the weekend?
Yeah, I got some plans.
Good. I'm glad to hear it.
Yep. We'll see how it goes.
It's good when Sean has plans.
Yes.
It's good when everybody has plans, for that matter. I know I'm gonna hopefully dig in the dirt a little bit more this summer, this weekend. So I'm looking forward to it. So, all right, man. Well, hey, anything else for the good of the order?
No, that's everything.
Nope, that's everything. Virtually everything. That's all that's left over. All right, so this is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken Press. Thanks for sticking with us. Want to remind everybody the way you can support this podcast, the way you can support our new writers, the way you can support progressive media, keeping the media in the movement in the media, is by going to patreon.com/rcpress, becoming a member for as little as $5 a month. This is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken Press. Thanks for hanging out with us once again. We'll see you next week. See ya!
Former Vice President Joe Biden came out and said that he would not support repealing the Hyde Amendment. That is a provision of federal law that bars the federal government from funding abortion services through Medicare, Medicaid, and others. You disagree with that position.
Yes, I do.
Is Joe Biden wrong?
Yes. So
Why is he wrong?
here's how I look at this. I've lived in America where abortions were illegal.
Yeah.
And understand this, women still got abortions. Now, some got lucky on what happened, and some got really unlucky on what happened. But the bottom line is they were there. And under the Hyde Amendment, under every one of these efforts to try to chip away or to push back or to get rid of Roe versus Wade, understand this, women of means will still have access to abortions. Who won't will be poor women, will be working women, will be women who can't afford to take off 3 days from work, will be very young women, will be women who've been raped, will be women who have been molested by someone in their own family. We do not pass laws that take away that freedom from the women who are most vulnerable.